Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Sugar Mama's Fire Play podcast. I am financial planner Canna Campbell. Before we begin this morning's podcast, a quick reminder that my videos, my podcasts, and my blog posts, and anything you see on Instagram are always general advice only. I'm never giving you personal advice. It's never any product advice. And if you ever hear something or see something or read something, think, oh, I wonder if that's going to be right for me. That is when you should always reach out and speak to a qualified, licensed financial planner and ask for personal advice. All right, let's get cracking with today's podcast. Today I have a massive smile on my face. I've already been smiling and laughing because I am chatting with the lovely Lexa from the Avocado Toast Budget, the ATB. Lexa started her account back in June 2020 after facing unemployment after graduating with her Master's of Psychology. And she decided to just start sharing her finances, her financial fears, her financial journey, and turned out to be quite a lot of financial accomplishments along the way. And I am so excited to be chatting with Lexa. She's based all the way in the US. So this is, we're going global here with Sugar Mama's Fire Play podcast, which is always really exciting. Lexa, thank you so much for joining us today. I love connecting with people around the world and seeing that, we're all on this financial journey, trying to get better with money, healthier with money, more mindful with money. Thank you. So how are you today?
Yes. Oh, I'm so good. Thank you for having me on. This is amazing. The fact that we can sit down in completely separate continents and still have all of these shared experiences and share this conversation is amazing. I'm so excited to be here.
It's so powerful as well because everyone gets to eavesdrop into this, and hopefully, they get some ideas or some tips or some inspiration along the way that then flows into their life and flows into their life for years and years and years to come. Can you talk me back to that moment? Because I have a few students that work for me. Some girls work for me part-time at SAS Financial and at Sugar Mama, and they're getting close to graduating, and I get really stressed for them because their world is different. When I graduated, which is, I'm really, really old right now, but there were lots of opportunities. I feel like it's really tough now. It's a lot. I'd be terrified if I was graduating. And then you graduate with a Master's of Psychology and hit unemployment. That's heavy.
Yeah, it was. Oh, I totally feel that. I originally graduated with my bachelor's degree in psychology back in 2018. And I was sitting there and I had no idea what I wanted to do with it. When I had originally went into college, I thought I had this amazing, perfect plan. And of course, life happens and our plans changed. And suddenly I found myself with no plan. So I did what most typical Americans who don't know what they're going to do with a degree do. And I decided to just keep going to school in hopes to put off adulting.
Become a professional student.
Yes. So I decided I was going to get my degree my master's degree in psychology, and then hopefully along the way everything would work out.
Yeah.
And I decided for some reason to specialize in a very specific area of psychology, of behavioral psychology.
Yeah.
Because again, it was one of those situations where I thought I knew what I wanted to do. It felt right at the time. So I just dove headfirst into it. And then I graduated, and about a week after I graduated, everything shut down. That was March of 2020. And it was also my 25th birthday.
Oh.
And everything just stopped, as we all know. But it was terrifying, but it was also a really important moment for me because it gave me some time to take a step back and be honest with myself that I had just been going through the motions, and I had wound up with this degree that I wasn't passionate about. It wasn't something that I really wanted to do. It was something that I had kind of always planned on doing in the background. So I thought I better just keep going. I've invested all of this time. I have so many student loans, and this is what I should be doing. So I'm going to move forward with it. And then, of course, I was unemployed there for a little while.
So it's you had a bit of an adult conversation with yourself and just started to look at the responsibilities of your life and the changes and the shifts that you had to make, and facing the music and then taking a moment to realize you've got to step up and no longer bury your head in the sand.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a really scary place to be.
Yeah. But I bet it felt good once you made that decision and went, all right, okay, I've got to do this. I've got to take it seriously.
It did. And it felt very right in the moment. And I'm very thankful for the degree that I got and the career that I had, because it ended up being that about 6 months later, I ended up quitting that job. And now I run the ATB full time. And this is what I love to do. And this is what I feel in my heart, the universe was always sending me to do. And
it's your higher calling, a higher calling.
Yes, exactly. So I don't regret anything, but I definitely empathize with college graduates who are kind of in that same field of not knowing what is going to come next.
Students are so much more intelligent these days. Like I look at the girls with me, I'm like, they're so smart. I'm like, I was never that intelligent when I was at university.
Oh, I'm sure you were. You just have different perspective.
So talk me through your finances, if you don't mind me asking, because student loans, they can, it's funny, when I was at university, student loans, it wouldn't be on average, say $30,000. Quite often I talk to people with student loans, particularly in Australia, and they're now approaching the $80,000 mark, and that's not uncommon. And so, how are you going with your financial journey? Like, what are your goals? What are you doing? What are you finding working? What doesn't work? Like, what has been, the big calls to action that has made you go, all right, okay, I'm now actually kicking goals again. I'm actually no longer burying my head in the sand. I'm making progress. I'm seeing a shift. I'm seeing breakthroughs. I'm realizing how powerful I am. Like, can you talk me through that?
Yeah. So I am with that group of around 80,000. I have a little over $68,000 in student loans between my bachelor's degree and master's degree. And honestly, for the US, that isn't as bad as it could be.
I was going to say, that's not too bad for the US.
Yes. But it definitely isn't a great feeling coming out of graduation, knowing that that's kind of looming over your head.
Yeah.
So I also had come out of my bachelor's degree and about the year after that with $20,000 of credit card debt. So that was like the big thing on my mind. I just kept, even when I wasn't quite sure about like finances and how I was going to navigate all of that, I knew I needed to tackle my credit card debt, and then I could hopefully work toward tackling my student loans.
Okay.
So I was able to pay off that credit card debt, which was...
All right. How did you pay $25,000 off? Because it's only July 2021. Like, this is a year later, or just over, and you've already knocked some of your student debt as well as this credit card debt. How have you done this?
Yeah. So the big things that I found that helped me were, the first life changer was getting on a budget that worked for me. Yeah. I always viewed budgets as something that were so restrictive and were meant to be a boring thing that adults had to do. And I avoided it like the plague. And when I found out that budgeting didn't have to be that way, it was a life changer for me. Everything just kind of clicked, and I stopped fearing my finances and started deciding that I was going to attack it head on. Yeah. Which was a big mindset change.
I was about to say, mindset is everything. I sound like such a nerd, but I love my budget because it keeps me safe. I don't stress about running out of money before payday. I don't, if I go and buy something, I pay for it. I'm actually going to buying myself a cardigan as my birthday present to myself today. Ooh. And I'm really excited because I'm like, I've got plenty of money in my everyday spending account to go and do that, and I'm not going to jeopardize the rest of the month by, and it's a really nice one. I'm really excited. I've been wanting it for ages, but that's why I love my budgets. I'm like, this is why I have it, and also from mental health perspective, I don't have to feel guilty or remorseful or ashamed or embarrassed or or even punish myself when you've got a budget. I love that you said you've got a budget that worked for you. That's so important, because people put themselves on these ridiculous, stringent, tight, mean, deprivation-based budgets, and of course they get a backfire, and then they'll combust and rebel against them and undo all the hard work they've done already.
Absolutely, yes. And I love that you're talking about how nice it feels to know that you have enough money, you've saved for this cardigan. It's a treat for yourself. Because I really, like, I look back to how awful it felt every single time I went to buy something, that like pit in your stomach, knowing that either knowing you can't afford it or worrying that your card was going to get declined or you're going to overdraft. That's a terrible feeling.
Exactly.
And it's so
such a waste of
nice.
precious energy as well, all those, toxic emotions. Like the opposite of that is actually magnifying of energy and light. So how do you do your budget? Like, so obviously it's your account is called the Avocado Toast Budget. Like how does Lexa do her budget? Like, and how she done her budget so well that she's managed to pay off $25,000 in credit card debt?
So my budget has actually changed a lot, even in like the short amount of time that I've been doing the avocado toast budget, and since I've really known about budgeting. And it started off as a little bit more, not a strict budget, but a very like outlined and it was like a to the point zero-based budget, which just means that I gave every single dollar a job, and I was constantly tracking where all of my money went, what came in and out. And I still spent money on things that I enjoy, and I've always talked about how
it's all about balance. All about balance. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that that's the reason that I was actually able to pay off my credit card debt quickly, and that I was able to still stay out of credit card debt, is because I didn't try to give up everything that I loved in order to like sprint toward one goal. I found a balance that worked for me. And I've also allowed my budget and myself the room to grow and change, and know that sometimes I feel confident with my money and I can like go on a less tight budget, and sometimes I need to kind of like hone back down and reach a financial goal and go back to tracking my expenses. But I think really the big thing is that I've just allowed myself the space to do whatever is working for me at the time, and if it's no longer working and I need to do something else, then I change and move on. It's not failing if I need to change up my budget.
No, it's evolving, and it's so important that everyone reviews their budget on a regular basis, because even if you don't think your life is changing, it's just human nature and like inherent consumption habits dying hard to have new things creep in all the time. And I remember my son, his karate lessons starting. I had to redo the budget to see how I could fit the karate lessons and what I had to chop and reduce to squeeze that in, or when I've had a pay rise, going, all right, how am I going to allocate this money so I can enjoy it a little bit more, but I can pay off more of my mortgage? Like, it's so important to review it on a regular basis. And also, life's not consistent. It's not like we get the same expenses month after month. Like, this month we're having a baby, which we've just found out is going to potentially arrive a month early. And all of a sudden I'm like, all those expenses I thought I could ration out, for the month ahead, I've got to suddenly bring in. I've got to go back to the budget. And that's where you need to, be in touch and know and understand your budget, so that you can go, all right, I can drop this out there. I can drop this out there. Like, and thank goodness for lockdown, because I'm not spending nearly as much money. I can't go to a Pilates lesson anymore, so that's helping as well. But it's I say to people, a budget's like a playground, a kid's playground. If you look at a kid's playground, most of them have like a spongy mat. It's not concrete necessarily, and they've got normally a fence around it. So that means the kids can play safely in that playground and not get into too much trouble. That's like a budget. It just gives you, it's not telling you where the kids have to play in the playground. It's just saying they can play in that area as long as they don't get out of the fenced area. And that's all the budget is. The question I would love to ask you is, did you budget in your goals to pay down that debt? Did you have like a debt repayment plan? Did you do ad hoc repayments? Did you do side hustles to earn extra money to help pay off that debt? Like, how did you do that? Because there's a lot of money to pay off in a short period of time.
Yeah. So I had a plan, and then life happened, and that plan didn't exactly go according to plan. So originally I had thought, okay, I've planned this out. This is going to be perfect. I can put this amount of money toward my debt and have it paid off in a certain amount of time. And actually, my original plan was about 3 years. It was more than what I ended up doing. But it's funny that you mentioned like not spending as much money during lockdown, because I really do think that like actually that was a big help. Yes, I was unemployed for a while there, but I realized how much money I was spending just because I was out and about.
Oh
And
my
just
gosh.
because it was more natural to throw $5 or $10 here and $20 there and take a run to Target. That wasn't an option.
I'm the same. I'm like, I'll get a coffee and a muffin, and I can't just go get a coffee. I have to get a muffin, and if they have cookies, I'll have to get the muffin and the cookie as well as the coffee.
Yes.
It's amazing how much those little things. You think, oh, it's $12. Like, who cares? No. If you do that all the time, that quickly adds up. And
absolutely,
often when I'm looking at, say, for example, a $1,000 project, it's the psychology of seeing your bank account balance hit 900 and being, say, 950, and that $50 savings to then hit you to the $1,000 mark, which you can then go and invest or put towards debt or whatever you want to do with a $1,000 project. But that psychology going, actually, I'd rather not spend that $50, but see me hit that new level or break that new benchmark or smash that new goal. Like, yeah, it's you start to become so much more, as I say, mindful with money.
Yes, I love that, because it's so true. It's not about not spending that money at all. It's about giving yourself the opportunity to see, this is all that this money could be doing for me. What is most important to me right now?
Realize you have a decision.
Yes. And sometimes it is that I just want to pay for an overpriced iced coffee, and it's going to bring a lot of joy to my life. And
exactly.
That's totally okay. And then sometimes it's that I have the energy, I'll just make myself a cup of coffee and I'll put that extra money toward a different goal. But it's all about giving yourself the resources to be able to make those decisions for yourself.
Exactly. And then when you do, splurge and buy that beautiful salad from that cafe, or that cardigan or whatever, that iced latte, you enjoy it so much more, because and this is what I really find for myself, and I've from other conversations I've had with people, is we've become so consumption driven. We take these things for granted. We're so disposable with our money. Like, we're like, oh, I'll just grab a takeaway. Like, we've forgotten to stop and enjoy it and savor it and honor that and respect that, and we've almost like spoiled ourselves a little bit with this constant, I'll go to a cafe, buy my lunch every day, or I'll go out every single weekend to a new restaurant, or buy a new outfit every week or every month or whatever you might do. Like, it doesn't, the specialness and the meaningfulness of it is it's starting to dilute and disintegrate away when we have it at such a high frequency, I find. But when you just stop it, and this often happens when I do like Frugal February and Manifesting March, is you realize that the importance of less is so much more rewarding. You get so much more pleasure from that one purchase, because you've been saving up that delayed gratification, or the thought of, at the end of the week I'm going to reward myself with this beautiful salad. Like, I don't know, that's what I sort of have found personally in my own journey.
I absolutely agree. I always think about that when I used to work at Starbucks. That was like my college job.
Yeah.
And it just got to the point that I was there. It was just my routine. So it was natural for me to get nice coffee, get a pastry, get a snack. And even when I wasn't on the clock, so then it was coming out of my pocket. And then when I started budgeting, and that money had value, and I knew what it was supposed to be doing for me, and I knew that how much I had to work and save in order to spend that money, going to Starbucks less brought me more joy, because I really actually appreciated it.
Yeah.
When I was there.
You got out of that trap of mindless consumption.
Yes.
And you have a huge following on TikTok. Like, it's out of control. And a massively growing one on Instagram as well, which is insane. Like, how have you found like bearing all, like exposing all your dirty laundry, to the big wide world?
So it was really scary for me at first, because I grew up in a family that no one talked about money, especially if you had money issues, or you were dealing with debt, or you were stressed about money, anything negative, or might be negative about money, no one talked about.
Just sweep it under the mat.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I went most of my childhood, and honestly, even into college, having a really warped view of finances, because I saw what life we were living, and I saw what life my family was trying to make the world think that we were living. And I didn't know any of the stuff going on underneath until I got a little bit older, and we kind of started talking about it, and I started piecing some things together. that I realized that some things just weren't adding up.
Yeah.
And so it was really scary at first to talk about all of this credit card debt that I had, and the fact that I was constantly finding myself with nothing in my bank account because no one else around me had really been talking about that. And I had this worry that I was going to open up and then people were going to look at me differently, or I was going to find that I was just shouting into the void and no one else felt the same way. But as soon as I started talking about it and just kind of laying it all out there, I was just flooded with so many messages and comments from people saying that they felt the exact same way and they were in the same position or relatively the same. And it just made me realize that all of these people that I look to thinking, oh, I don't want them to know about my dirty laundry because they look like they have their life so together. When I started opening up and airing out everything that I was hiding underneath the rug, they had a lot of things that they were hiding too.
You created a safe place, which is so powerful and so beneficial for change.
It is. And it was so, and it allowed me to connect with people on a much deeper level and to be real in a way that we hadn't before. So it was very scary at first, but then it was just amazing. And it allowed me to grow so much. And I know that it has just allowed for this space that I didn't have growing up, and I wish that would have been created. And I wish that like my family would have been able to talk about these things. And now not only can I talk about these things with my family, but also with a bunch of other people's families all across the world. And that's just amazing to me.
How do you feel about being the one person in your family that's making a shift and doing things differently and, let's be honest, doing things better financially?
It's a weird feeling because in some ways it's so nice to know that I'm able to undo some of this generational trauma and that hopefully moving forward, we can approach things differently and heal. But there's also still that like little voice in the back of your head sometimes that you have growing up that tells you, don't like stick to the status quo, reel it back in. This is too much. Safe. You're going too far. Yeah. And it's like a weird ground to kind of navigate and to balance. But overall, it's been a mostly amazing and positive experience. And it's been so nice to watch the repercussions, not only for my life, but for like my family's life and other people as well, that it makes the weirdness worth it.
I've had so many people in front of me in tears, like breaking down, saying, I grew up with parents that gambled. I had a mother that was, squanderless and just spent every single dollar she earned. I've had a parent that blamed the other parent because they didn't have enough money. I've had parents that had like their furniture and home repossessed. Like I've seen so many different breakdowns and just people just fall apart into 1,000 pieces in front of me. And I've done everything I can to console them and try and teach them that they can do things differently. And just because you grew up in witnessing that, you don't have to follow that. You can actually use that as a catalyst and the motivation, the drive to do the polar opposite of it. So if you grew up with, a mother or father, I should say, that spent, lots of money, then you use that mindfulness and that awareness to go, okay, I'm going to have a healthier balance. And I guess just like, if you grew up with a parent that was, say, was an alcoholic, going, okay, well, I don't want to behave like that and treat alcohol in that type of way. I live my life like that. Like you use that as the catalyst for change. Do you think there's been an element of that a little bit in your life? And also, what is your advice to people who have grown up in poverty or grown up with very toxic financial habits? And I have to say, like, even for me, like my parents are very comfortable financially, but I used to hate my parents fought for money. For me, my catalyst for being responsible with money is having financial harmony in my life so that you never fight about it. So I've used that as a catalyst. Where does your advice and your story sit with all of this?
This is one of the most challenging parts of finances, I find, is trying to navigate undoing that generational trauma, seeing that growing up, and then also how that plays a role into our adulthood and our families that we're creating now as adults. Those are like two of the biggest questions that I get from people. And just like you, I hear all of these stories and I wish that I had the perfect answer and the way to help people through it. But I think that it's just one of those things that it's just hard. And sometimes things like that are just really tricky to navigate. And I empathize so much because I grew up with so many of those variables. And one of the things that really opened my eyes to the impact that my view on finances that I got from my childhood had on my life was actually my relationship with my partner, because we both really had a lot of generational trauma around money, but in very different ways. I grew up with a family that, come to find out, we didn't have a lot of money, but we tried to make the world think that we were okay, and we did. And my partner grew up in a situation where it was very obvious that there was no money, worrying if the lights were going to be kept on and how you were going to make it to next month's rent was very prevalent. So I came into the relationship having to figure out a way to let go of the world's expectations of me and know that my money is meant to do what I need it to do, not what everyone else thinks I need it to do. And my partner came in thinking that you needed to make sure that you had as much money as you possibly could and you couldn't spend any extra because what if something happened?
It was fear driven.
And I realized I always thought, oh, I have a much healthier relationship with money than that. But then when I started to unpack it, I realized, no, like you said, both of those things are fear driven, just in different ways. And it was nice to have someone to help me figure out that middle ground. But I think it's just recognizing that, like you said, now that you have brought this to attention and to your mind, and you know that this is not the relationship with money you want to have, that opens up the door for you to start realizing what are some of these narratives that were told to me about money growing up, and do these still serve me? And if not, what do I need to change? What narratives do I need to start shaping these into in the future?
I love that you use the term unpacking. We've all got to unpack. And even like no one is perfect with money. Like I'm not perfect with money. I'm always learning new things all the time about like, and old habits die hard, and the inner child voice, and it's never set and forget. Just like you're a financial strategy, it's never set and forget. It's you've always got to work on it. You've always got to have a mindful connection with it, and have an awareness, so that if there's a new lesson or message or something you need to that's happening around you that you need to pay attention to, like we've got to make sure we constantly grow, because when we're growing, we're alive. And, we're evolving and hopefully becoming stronger and wiser and smarter along the way. And, of course, there are going to be setbacks and challenges. That's life, and that's why I use that analogy of the ocean and knowing how to swim and surf the ocean so you can get through the waves safely. But, just that constant, it is a journey. And I think a lot of people think, oh, you just do this and that and follow like a formula and magic happens. It's like, no, it's so much deeper than that. And I reckon 99% of the world has had some sort of childhood financial trauma in some degree or the other. Like, and you've got to realize you have that choice. You can, as you say so beautifully, does it serve me? What do I need to now then change? And like, even it means taking a mirror and flipping it on its complete polar opposite. Just like the parent that used to spend or gamble, you do the opposite of it. That's what you use. That is the blessing in the disguise, that magic or that medicine that heals you to do things differently and better for your family.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I love how you phrase that, because that was a big turning moment for me, was starting to realize what were my preconceptions about money, what were the narratives that I was told, whether it was like people actually said it, or it was just kind of the assumed way of being with money. And for me, that was, if there's any issue, you don't talk about it and you do whatever you can to cover it up, even if it means that you continue going into credit card debt, even if it means that you continue to shut other people out to try to maintain this this ideal image of what life is supposed to be in heavy quotation marks. And I decided I was just going to flip that on its head, exactly like you said, turn the mirror around. And I started sharing it to a bunch of people on the internet. And it was very scary, but healing at the same time to take control of that idea and decide that I was going to do things differently.
Oh. As we start to wrap up this podcast, I want to ask you, like, where are you going? Like your debts are coming, your credit card debt is gone. Hallelujah.
Yes.
Student debt's coming down. Like, what are your big goals? What beyond the debt-free journey? What are your dreams? What is your ambition? What is your heart yearning to do? Because you have an amazing light and energy about you, and I want to know, like, share with me, like, your inspiration for your future, like beyond the debt-free journey.
I have so many dreams. I actually am not like I talk about this a little bit on my channel as well, but now that my credit card debt is gone, I've given myself the permission to stop stressing out so much about my student loans.
Yeah.
And I have figured out, like, for me, my biggest dream when I look at where do I want to be 5, 10, 15 years from now is that it all comes back to the freedom to be able to spend my time and energy on the things that bring me joy.
Yeah.
What is going to allow me to do that? And so a lot of people call it financial freedom or whatever it is that you want to put a label on it for.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the big moment that I realized that was when I was able to financially sustain myself to quit the job that I wasn't enjoying to do this. Yeah. And now this is a job, I work really hard at it, but it doesn't feel so cumbersome and it doesn't feel like such a heavy weight because it's something that brings that light out. And my goal is to be able to continue to do that throughout my life. I want to visit Costa Rica. I love to travel. I have all of these like small travel plans when like life opens up, but it all just comes down to continuing to honor what is best for me and my family and the life that I want to live, and making sure that I put myself in a position that I'm doing the best I can to honor those goals.
Yeah.
And continue to try to reach them.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share this. This is such a beautiful and powerful conversation. I feel so inspired myself just hearing you talk, and the language you use, the words you use, in the tone of your voice. Like, it's energy is contagious. And you know, I as you're talking, I'm like, I just feel so inspired to just go and continue on building up my passive income, because for me that passive income reflects time to, like, you know, be at the school gate at 3:00 to pick my kids up, time to take my kids away, or Tom away for a romantic weekend away, or time to go, all right, we're all going away on holiday together. Like, the time for experiences and, you know, and investing in memories that last a lifetime. Like I just listened to you use a lot. I'm like, yes, it's such a appropriate reminder as to the big picture, and you know, enjoying money in a balanced way, in a healthy way, as you say. Like, you've not put as much pressure now that credit card debt's gone, and you're on a journey, and you've got these big picture goals. Like, you may have not even have had those goals when you were, for example, at university, or, you know, and a life without goals, to me, feels almost a bit lost and a little bit soulless as well. Like, goals are so important. I have such a bigger spring to my step when I have something I'm working towards, even if it's a little short-term goal. It helps me so much from a headspace perspective, and building my sense of self-worth and confidence.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, look, Lexa, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. I know it's the evening for you, to chat with us on Sugar Mama's Fire Play podcast. I'm so incredibly grateful. I have just launched my TikTok account, so I'm going to make sure I'm following you. I've got my 124 followers. So I'm so excited to connect with you. So thank you so much. And thank you for allowing everyone to share this and listen into this really powerful conversation and hear your words, feel your energy, and, you know, feel the warmth of your light, because as I said, your energy is very, very contagious, and I'm feeling inspired right now to go and look at my goals.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, this has been amazing. I am so glad that we got to connect. This was such a beautiful conversation. I'm so excited.
Well, I hope that we can reconnect again. I really hope, because I'd love to speak to you again, like in a year's time, and hopefully I'm out of lockdown and you're not going back into lockdown, and we have new things to share, and also new words of wisdom, new tips, new ideas that we can share with everyone around us as we, build a really healthy community, and where we inspire each other, raise each other, lift each other up, and pull each other out of tough times, and make each other realize how powerful and capable we really are when we put our head, heart, and mind to it. So thank you, Lexa. For everyone who's listening to this, please make sure you go and follow Lexa at the Avocado Toast Budget, not just on Instagram, but on TikTok as well.
Yes.
All right, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. If you could take a second to leave a rating and review, I would greatly appreciate it. And I will see you on Monday for more podcast, a fresh one every week for your motivation, education, and inspiration. Ciao for now.